Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will allow you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am so excited to have Carl Richards on my show. And let me tell you about Carl. So he has spent more than 25 years behind the microphone, on radio and on stage, entertaining and influencing audiences worldwide. He's a 3X best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and MC, podcast host, and a founder and CEO of Carl Speaks and Podcast Solutions. Whoa, Podcast Solutions Made Simple, which in a few minutes you're going to hear that quite a lot. So Carl has helped coaching, consulting, and he's a subject matter expert because he has the authority that is needed to launch world-class podcast. Who doesn't want that? Everybody does. He lives with his spouse in, you're going to have to help me with this, Ganoque?
We'll go with that. That's close. That's close.
It's an Ganoque. It's an Indian.
It is indigenous, and it means where two rivers meet, because it's the St. Lawrence River and the Ganoque River, and it's a beautiful place. Vicki, you're going to have to come visit sometime.
I love Canada, definitely. So you enjoy camping and boating in the 1,000 islands. Yes,
I do.
1,000
I
islands.
do.
So we chose 7 reasons you need a podcast. I think this is what everybody should do. To me, podcasting is the best. So please join me in welcoming Carl Richards so we can learn what are those 7 reasons that we need a podcast. Carl, welcome.
Vicki, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on, and congratulations on almost successfully getting through the pronunciation of Ganoque. That's
Ganoque. I'm going to have to, just put it on my bulletin board here and say it 12 times every day. Ganoque. I'll tell you right now, I'm 65 in a week. I'm not going to remember what that was. All right. But I do want to visit it because I love camping. I love boating, and I love Canada. So
just come here.
Yeah. Just book a speaking gig there and bring me on.
There you go. We'll do that. There's a few great places you could do that, and not too far from Kingston or our nation's capital, Ottawa, where there are always great places where you can go and speak. And if there aren't, we'll just create one.
Yeah,
Vicki.
we should.
See?
Canada. I love my friends in Canada. All right. So we gave away the first easy question I asked. So I don't know if I have any other easy questions before we get in the meat of this. Have you always lived in Ganoque?
No, I haven't. But congratulations on the pronunciation again. No, I'm actually born and raised in a city called Hamilton, Ontario. So just outside of Toronto. Yeah,
I know.
Steel City. Because
I'm from
a lot of factories and stuff. So
I'm from Pittsburgh, original.
So you
City.
know then.
Original Steel City. Although whenever I moved away, we went through the Renaissance. All the steel mills except for one closed down, and now it's just beautiful blue skies. No more gray.
Right.
We could do a whole podcast on living in the steel cities.
Living in the steel cities, and that would be fun. But no, Hamilton was the place where it the scene of the crime, I guess you could say, where I was born and went to school there and studied radio broadcasting there. And but Ganoque is where I've spent the last 12 years, I think. Math is hard. Time just flies too. So, but it's been a great journey. So I'm so blessed to be here. It's a great spot as well in the Thousand Islands.
Very good. So why should a business owner need or want a podcast?
Because I said so. If for
I
no
know,
other reason, it's like asking a business coach, do I really need to do this? Yes, you do, because I said to do that. Here's one of the reasons why I believe that a business owner really needs to look at podcasting. When we, if you go back a few years, Vicki, how you would get the word out if you were a subject matter expert was, let's go back 20, 25, 30 years ago. You would write a book, right? Yeah. Then you would take that book on tour, not as a companion, but as a thing that you would promote.
Here's a book.
Yeah, you would promote it, you would sell it, so you would get on stages. But then you would also, while you're promoting that book, you might be lucky enough, as you're doing that book tour, you might be lucky enough to get on some television shows or maybe some radio, some radio interviews as well. That hasn't been fully replaced by the podcast, but when you want to be seen as the go-to expert in 2023, which is the recording of this particular interview, that's what you would do today. Yeah. 30 years ago, it's write a book, go on tour, promote the heck out of that book, get on stages, and that's how you would be seen as the go-to expert. Here's the thing in the modern world. We're not looking, and live stages still exist, but we're looking for people online. We're looking for that proof, that social proof, that professional proof online. That's why your yellow pages don't exist, or if they do, guess what? They're online.
Nobody's
the big thick phone book, it's now the size of a leaflet now, if there even is one. People are looking for that subject matter experting in the online space. And if you're not there, there's a good chance your clients won't find you. That's why most business owners, if they're smart, probably by this point have a website. Why? Because we've learned in the last 5, 10, 15 years, if you really want to be in business or be seen in that space, you need a website. Did we need websites 20 years ago? Not as much as we do today. And a lot of businesses didn't even have websites then. So I believe that websites, or podcasts rather, are where websites were 20, 23, 24 years ago. Still new, still in their infancy stages. But by the time 15, 20, 30 years rolling around, now we're looking at it as okay, yes, I definitely need to look at this. So that's why a business owner needs that podcast. It's that social proof. It's that expertise if you want to level up. And I don't know of too many business owners that don't want to level up, that don't want to bring more revenue into their business, into their company. They don't say, you know what, I made 6 figures this year. I'm at 150,000. I'm happy. Some do, I'm sure. But if you really want to grow your business and leave that legacy behind, that's where a podcast is going to help you.
For sure. And the reason I loved and started doing it is because, as a business owner or an entrepreneur, we go through networking. And so I did my stint in prior to COVID, where I was going around to in person, where I would be blessed with 5 minutes to say what I did and exchange a bunch of cards. And so with a podcast, I get to have this rich conversation for 30 minutes or so with people, to be able for me to vet whether or not I want to collaborate with you, but also to share with my audience to say, oh, I get that person. I want to know more. It's just a wonderful way. And I love the vodcast, as I call it, the video, because you can see sincerity, authenticity in the person's eyes. Whereas in radios, sometimes maybe you didn't really, if you had a smooth talking kind of person, you didn't really get that.
Yeah. It certainly is true that way. And that's not where podcasting started, though. Podcasting started out as audio only.
Yeah, it did.
And you and I met through a group called Podmatch, which is a great place. And we just, there's a plug for you, Alex. Yet another one. Every
Yeah,
time I'm on
another
one of
one.
these shows, you're getting a plug. But
Mm.
he actually spoke recently to one of the early adopters of podcasting who basically explained where that all came from. And it's since been adopted into video form, which is great. And it's an amazing opportunity for people, whether it be video or whether it be audio. It's still a viable platform. So if the visual is important for you for that social proof, wonderful. If you're too busy or you're driving, don't take your eyes off the road. It's better to listen, but you'll still get that information and that portability, and more than 5 minutes. Vicki, as you mentioned, I've been through many networking meetings as well, like that, where you're lucky if you get 5 minutes. Sometimes you only get 2.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the thing too is, as you're reading the book, if you will, or maybe just listening to someone give a presentation, questions will come up. And that's where
Sure.
I love in the interview, where I have my set of questions I'll ask, but organically other things come to mind that the audience may also be thinking too. And I ask that question, and now it takes it to a different direction. And I just think it's a richer way to really engage with the guests that I have.
Very organic, very natural, and a very I actually don't always go in with formatted questions anymore. I used to, and then I realized that, wait a minute, that's not an organic conversation. You don't write down a list of questions when you're going to meet a friend over coffee and say, I have 7 questions I want to ask you. You have a conversation with them. And yes, you might have some questions in mind, like, how's your mother doing? I heard she was sick. How's she feeling? Like, that might come up, but you don't go in with those 7 questions and say, I have 7 questions I want to ask you. First, how's your mother? Great. How's work? You just don't.
Yeah.
It's an organic, it's an ever flowing conversation.
And for me, the questions are a lot of times a guest may have an agenda or something that they really want to make sure the audience hears, and I want to respect that. But as I said, I touch on that question and then I'll just go where it takes me, because I'm a curious person.
Yeah.
And so whenever we talk about podcasting and this form of, I say, networking and really learning to know, like, and trust the people, we have to think, are they truly sharing what their brand is? How can you dispel any myths about branding and the importance of really being seen and heard? Because people don't buy products or service, they buy you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if this is a great time to talk about this, there are the 5 myths or 5 reasons why people don't jump into the podcasting space. Is that a great time to share?
Yeah, go ahead.
That?
Yeah, because
okay.
it's fine.
Yeah, okay, because that really is, podcasting has been around for a while, but it's still very much the Wild West when you think about it. It's almost the undiscovered country. I'm a Trekkie. That's one of my favorite Trek movies, but it's very much the undiscovered world in some ways, because even though it's been around that long, it's been slow for people to come into this space. And as people come into this space, some people don't stay around very long. I don't want to have a deep discussion about what pod fade is, or even maybe I should have even mentioned it.
Of that.
But heard of that? What's that all about? But there are 5 basic reasons that I've come up with, and they're not all my ideas, by the way. There's no new original ideas here. They're just things that I've along my journey have discovered, that 5 reasons why people don't come into this space and embrace it maybe the way they should. And the first myth is the money myth, and that's how much money is this going to cost me? And sometimes it's not knowing the return you're going to get on your investment. Because when people come into podcasting, they automatically think, oh, I have a podcast, therefore it's going to make me money. And that's the wrong thinking. That's the wrong way to approach it. It should be not, how is the podcast going to make money? It's, how is the information or the content that I share going to drive people to my website? In other words, how am I going to influence people to go to my website to then tap into my products and services, even my free products, because those can lead to services and products down the line. So it's not how much is this going to cost, or, oh, it's too expensive. Sometimes that happens too. It's what's the value, but more what's the value of what I'm going to give to my audience to be seen as that expert. So that's the first myth. The second myth is the content myth. It's the, what am I going to talk about? I don't have any content. And we know, Vicki, we've been around the block long enough for enough times to know that's not true. Everyone has content. It's the blogs you've written, the articles you've been featured in, the books, the courses you've delivered, the webinars, the Facebook and LinkedIn lives that you've done. That's all content. So it's not about the content that you're going to create. It's the content that you now have to curate for a podcast, because it is slightly different than the other than how you create your other content. But you need to look at that and say, I have content. I just need to structure it maybe slightly differently. The third myth is the competition myth. You know, we look at podcasting sometimes and say, there's too many out there already. And really, why would people listen to me? The reality is, for every approximately 400 blogs, for all the bloggers that are out there, for every 400 blogs, roughly, there's one podcast. So that's why in a lot of ways, it's still the Wild West. But not only that, think of all the millions, if not billions of websites that are out there. Does that stop us from having a website? Going, you know, there are too many websites out there, Vicki. I don't want a website. No. You see the need. You find a way to navigate through that noise so you can be seen as the expert in that space. So there is competition, but when you see it as an opportunity as opposed to competition, that's where the magic happens. The fourth myth is the tech myth. And that's this sounds really technical and complicated. I don't think it's for me. And let me share with you, that's why I don't fix my own car, because it's too technical and complicated. Not only that, but Vicki, if I were to start fixing the car, if I lifted the hood of the car and say, I wonder what needs fixing, my spouse would run outside and say, what are you doing? It's a Tesla. You don't need to fix it. But on top of that, it's not in my wheelhouse. That's why you hire the expert. That's why you don't perform your own medical procedures typically. That's why you don't do your own dentistry. That's why you have experts to do things for you. So if something is complicated, you always ask the expert, right? You don't just try and muddle through it yourself or go, it's too complicated, I don't want to do it. And the fifth myth is, I love this one, it's the time myth. And we talked about this very briefly just before we started, because there's that preconceived notion of how long a podcast should be. And it's based on what other podcasters have done already. And it's also based on what we think of in terms of television programming or radio and how long some of those shows are. We kind of base our ideas about that with that in mind. The honest truth is that there are podcasts out there that are 2 minutes long. There are podcasts out there that are 2 hours long. The question is, how long can your audience engage you? But moreover, when it comes to time, because a lot of people get bogged down with the time as in, how much time do I need to spend on this? It's how valuable is your time? And is this something that you can then unload to somebody else to do for you so you can then focus on your business? So those are the 5 myths, and those are the things that really can slow people down or stop them in their tracks from starting a podcast. And it's not hard to get past them once you know that there is someone there that can help you do that.
Very good. Excellent. So real quick, just the 5 things right in a row.
Okay.
One.
In a row. Here we go. Money. So the money myth, the content myth, the competition myth, the tech myth, and the time myth.
There you go. There's your 5.
There you go.
So I agree with this next piece. You say that a podcast is a speaking opportunity. And so share a little bit about that, and then I'll give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got into podcasting, I didn't see it as a speaking opportunity. I saw it as an extension of my brand, and I saw it as a way to take my content and put it into a different format, right? I was doing a lot of Facebook Lives at the time, and I'm like, you know what? It only makes sense to put these into a place where people, and podcasting was, and again, it wasn't a new medium back in 2017, 2018, but it was still kind of up and coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. As I started to do more of them, I realized that every time I was cracking open the microphone and recording an interview or even doing a solo show, guess what? I was speaking.
Yes. Yes, you were.
And I'm a member of a speaking organization in Canada, and it's surprising the number of people in this organization that don't have podcasts that are still road warriors and think that that is the greatest way to get in front of your audience. It's still a viable way. I still get on physical stages. Vicki, I'm sure you still get on physical stages as well and love it. But let me tell you something. If I could say to you that you can get on 52 stages every single year. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to fight airports or delayed flights or hotel beds that are lumpy and pillows that you know, you don't have to do any of that. All you have to do is turn open your microphone by yourself or have a guest that you can have a conversation with, and that counts as a speaking opportunity. And that can lead to clients. And by the way, you're speaking in front of your ideal audience every single time because you've set up your show that way. Would you do it?
Absolutely.
And so many people don't. That's the part that really gets under my skin, but there's hope. So that's why I see it as a speaking opportunity, because every time you are on microphone, every time you're recording an episode, it's a speaking opportunity because you're in front of your audience. And that's why a lot of business owners do it, because they see it as an extension of their brand, just like speaking and networking and having that book. I once had a colleague share with me that he saw a book as an extension of his business card. It's very similar in that way, that this is an extension of your brand, and it's a quick, maybe not quick, rather, it's a path to clients, your ideal clients, every single time you speak.
For me, I do anywhere from 4 to 10 podcasts a week. If I was traveling, speaking, even if I stayed local, I mean, the gas miles, the wear and tear, the driving time that I've been wasting, I wouldn't. And then, but my audience is around the world. You know, it just is, to me, such a great way, not only to have the opportunity to speak, but to extend my network and to practice my craft.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what better way to practice it than, and here's the other thing, we're recording this. This will be edited, I'm sure, cleaned up a little bit before it goes live.
You're doing awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think I maybe made a couple of mistakes, but anyways, it'll be cleaned up a little bit. When you're live on stage, guess what? If something goes wrong, you're still live on stage. That's not to say that live stages still aren't, fun to be on and a great opportunity, but you can engage in so many different ways. And like you said, Vicki, you can travel the globe. And if you're doing an audio podcast, not even have to get out of your pajamas. But if you are doing a video podcast, I would recommend getting out of your pajamas. But seriously, you don't have to leave your house. You can. You can have a studio set up right in your house. You don't even need a studio. You just need a comfortable area that you can record in. It could be a quiet area, and you're still engaging your audience.
Yeah, for sure. So time is flying by. Let's just move on to the rapid fire. I have 2 I think we can get through. So what do you wish you knew? You started 25 years ago doing radio and things. That first day you started, way back, I know, got to remember. What do you wish you knew?
I wish I knew what the actual industry was like, and I wouldn't have gotten into it. I love the broadcast industry. Don't get me wrong. It's been through one heck of it's been through the ringer multiple times. This last pandemic has really put it through an even greater ringer where, 70% of the revenue is down and there's so many jobs being lost. And if you had told me, that first day or even on the bus as I was going to that job, it was a 28-hour bus ride, not every day, but a 28-hour bus ride to that new community I didn't live in to get that job, I would have said, you know what, there's another way to do this. And I don't know what it would have been. It might have been totally would have been a different career altogether, I think. But I certainly think now that I can look at it from the outside and look into it, I can go, you know what, I had fun there and I loved it, but there's a whole world outside of it that is just waiting to be explored. And I wish I had explored it more while I was in it. So maybe I wouldn't have stayed in it so long. As great as it's been, I think I would have gotten out of it quicker if I wasn't so driven to be successful in it.
I was just going to say, we get comfortable. We love that paycheck. And, I can say the same thing for my last career.
It's a paycheck, but it's also that, you think that, it'll be this next city that'll lead me to this next great opportunity, that'll lead me to then that big time opportunity that you've just been waiting for. And that just doesn't happen the same way it did 30, 40 years ago in its heyday, because it's a changed landscape.
Yeah.
And conventional media technology is really putting it, there's new information out there that says that the on-demand world, so podcasting, has surpassed the streaming world, radio. Wow. And that doesn't make for a pleasant journey if you're still in the industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I truly do love doing this. So my next question is, though, what's next for you?
Oh my goodness, what's next for me? Clearly not radio, based on what I just shared with you.
No.
Global domination, but no, seriously.
I love it.
But what else is there? Come with me on the journey, Vicki. Come on, the path to global domination. But no, I think the next thing for me is, this podcasting world, I think it's just getting started. Yeah. So I think what's next for me is being one of the catalysts that is on the right side of change. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I'll be right there with you, sir. Yes, sir.
There are so many great people there. You're one of them. We mentioned Alex. Earlier. He's on the right side of it. May as well give him his full name. But it's such a great space. And I think as more great people come into this space, it's just going to just become this amazing community, not just people who are out there just for the sake of having a podcast. It's people who are dedicated, driven, and determined to make this a fantastic, not just community for ourselves, but community as a whole. Yeah. So that's what I think is next.
Whenever I'm interviewed, I always say that I don't think of myself as an influencer. I think of myself as a connector. That's why I started this, because, I had a few people that helped me along the way, but whenever you get into being an entrepreneur, sometimes you do feel like you're on an island. And it's so great to be able to just spend 30 minutes with somebody that might help you maybe see that there is a community out here for you.
100%. Awesome. And speaking of islands, by the way, you're welcome to the 1,000 Islands anytime. Let me know when you're coming. We'll roll out the red carpet.
Yeah. And that'll be awesome. I just would love it.
We will, all right. Seriously.
I know. Okay, so we're going to share my screen because you, like I, definitely want to remember Carl's information of how to get in touch with him. If you want to go to his website, it is https:// podcastsolutionsmadesimple.com. On Facebook, you can find him at carl.richards.148. On LinkedIn, he's at carl-richards-podcast-solutions-made-simple.
Which doesn't sound very simple. I know.
So just look for Carl Richards, and then you'll see a bunch of Carl Richards and find that one that says Podcast Solutions Made Simple, or his face, because you can see it now. All right. And then Instagram is Podcast Solutions Made Simple, and Twitter is Carl Richards 72. I'm going to turn it over to Carl to talk to you about his call to action of what you can find on that website, and any other incentives that he would have for you to want to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Vicki. There are a lot of great tools there. I mean, one of the things we do go in a little more depth with, we talked about it. We talked about the 5 myths today. So there are some great videos there to help you on your journey. There are also some great resources there. The link to our podcast is there. Vicki, you should come on my podcast. We'll talk about that off mic. We'll talk about that, but I'd love to have you on my show. But there's also an opportunity for you if you're listening to this and you're going, is this podcasting thing? Is this really for me? Are Vicki and Carl just out to lunch, not just planning a lunch date? What's up with that? Then schedule some time. Let's have a conversation. I'm all about really wanting to help people navigate through this territory and help them figure out if this is a space for you, if you really want to level up your credibility and your brand and your business. So book a 15-minute podcast strategy session. I'm not strict to 15 minutes. If we go 17 minutes or 20, if we're having a great conversation, I'm okay with that. But definitely take an opportunity to do that. It's at no charge to you to do that. So take the opportunity to reach out and let's have a conversation and find out where you see yourself fitting into this space.
Awesome. So it's been such a pleasure. I could talk to you all day, Carl. That's just what you're preaching, I believe in. And I know when I first got into podcasting, people were like, well, how can you make money in that? And it's like, well, that first wasn't my reason for doing it. But, if that money comes along, that's awesome. Great. And again, Podmatch helps with that a little bit. But it's just meeting great people like you that can help other people out there that maybe don't even realize what they're missing by not having a podcast. And so thanks for your great advice and tips.
Vicki, thank you so much for having me. And I'm serious, you're coming on my show, but it's been a pleasure being on yours. Thank you.
I would not pass up this fun time to have some more time with you for sure. All right. So as I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.